All right, good evening, everyone. And we'll get this planning advisory committee meeting. And just thank you for your patience as we work through technology and get this meeting proceeding. So I have some opening remarks. The public meeting is being heard by City Council Planning Advisory Committee, and public notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The non-elected members of the Planning Advisory Committee are Mr. John Beltudis, Mr. David Joyce, Ms. Catherine Brown, and Mr. Paul Jennings. Citizen appointees may ask questions and participate in the discussion in order to assist in making recommendations to City Council, but may not make motions or vote in connection with the public meeting. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Planning Committee or City Council before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of City Council or the local planning appeal board. If a person or public body does not make an oral submission at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Belleville before the related bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal, unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Comments received at this public meeting, as well as written comments, will be considered by the Engineering and Development Services Department in analysis of the applications that were part of the public meeting tonight. For further information on how to provide comments to the city regarding an application from this public meeting, please email planning@belleville.ca. A recommendation report will be brought forward upon receipt of all agency and public comments in the future. Any person wishing to be advised of the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee's recommendations with respect to today's applications are requested to provide their name and address, as well as the application in which they have an interest in writing to the City of Belleville. And I'm just going to remind folks to make sure you're muted. Those, including those on telephone, it just makes it easier for people to communicate. So for attendance purposes, I see all of council members are here. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For this portion of the meeting, 3.2, I have a competing business to that one, so I'll be stepping out.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to declare a conflict for item 3.5.
Okay, and that is noted, and I understand the paperwork is with the city clerk, so thank you both. Okay, and we'll get right into the public meeting portion. Notice 3.1, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 892 Highway 62, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B-77-1104. Owner is Garunda Saran, and applicant is Nateen Malhotra, and I'll turn it over to Ms. McAdam for presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we could just get the presentation slides up and running. The staff presentation slides. While these slides are up and running, I can provide just at least begin to discuss this application. So the subject land is approximately 0.4 hectares in size with 61.2 meters frontage on the east side of Highway 62, and it's presently vacant. The subject land is zoned a general commercial exception 4 zone, and it's designated hamlet in the city's official plan. The applicant's proposing to rezone the property to a general commercial zone to permit an eating establishment or add an eating establishment as a permitted use. And that's in order to facilitate the proposed development that you see at the top right-hand corner of your screen, which is a gas bar with an associated convenience store and drive-through restaurants. There have been a few documents with the submitted with the application, including a planning justification report and a functional servicing and stormwater management report. Aside from that, in terms of general description of the proposal, as you can see, they proposed 2 access points off of Highway 62, a total of 20 parking spaces on the property. At this time, no notable public, internal, or agency comments have been received. Quinte Conservation has indicated no objections to the applications, and no public correspondence has been received through the planning department at this time. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So in terms of those speaking in favor, we have Nitin Malhotra, who's registered, and I'll get her activated, or that person activated.
Nitin, you've been promoted to a panelist. If you could start your video and unmute, you'll be able to speak.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, for some reason, I'm not sure if my camera is working, but as long as you can hear me, I mean, that's great. So, so once again, my name is Nitin Malhotra. I'm an architect based in Richmond Hill, and I would like to thank everybody present here this evening, Mr. Chair, council members, member of the public. I know it's difficult times, but I really appreciate the incentive taken over by the city of Belleville to see things get through, make sure that the development doesn't stop. So we really appreciate this gesture of having this meeting through Zoom. I would like to jump in right away on this proposed development that my client, Mr. Gurinder Saran, is proposing on 8092 Highway 62 in Belleville. I'm not sure, Desta, if our PowerPoint presentation can be made available to other people, or?
We have it.
Yep, we should have the presentation. We'll be able to get it up on this screen in just a moment for you, Nitin.
Okay, great, thank you.
Your presentation was also provided to committee members in advance of today's meeting as well.
I see. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so your presentation is on our screen.
Okay, great, great. So I guess, Desta, you'll be changing the slides then, or?
We have a person from IT that will be switching the slides on your behalf. When you're ready to switch the slides, just say next slide and we'll move forward.
Okay, great. So as everyone can see from this front page, it pretty much showcases the kind of presentation or kind of development we are proposing. It's a gas station with a convenience store and a food partner complete with a drive-through. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the subject lands is located on the east side of Highway 62 Road, south of Olmac Road and west of Ashley Road. The project proposal includes a 4-pump gas canopy, a convenience store with an eating establishment. The site will contain 20 parking spaces. The proposed building will be of contemporary design with EIFS and hardy board finishes. The subject lands, as Desta was pointing out, will require a zoning bylaw amendment to allow for an eating establishment. Now, this slide showcases the site and the surrounding areas. The subject land consists of a vacant parcel of land located on the east side of Highway 62 Road, south of Olmac Road and west of Ashley Road. The lands have an area of 0.41 hectare, approximately 1 acre, and frontages of 61.2 meters on Highway 62. The lands have a gradual slope from the southwest to the southeast with a grade change of approximately 2 meters. The subject site is abutted by a hardware store on the north side and green vacant lands on the south and east side. The site, as we know currently as it stands, is vacant. The site is accessible by Highway 62 running on the west of the site. So Highway 62 predominantly would be the main artery that would bring the traffic in and onto our site. Now, quick, some notes on the current provincial policy and some quick notes on Belleville itself. City of Belleville is located on the north shore of the Bay of Quinte off Lake Ontario. It is located 190 kilometers east of Toronto and 360 kilometers west of Montreal on Highway 401. Mix of urban and rural areas and vacation lands at the doorstep, Belleville offers its residents and businesses all the amenities of a big city with the charm and character of a small town. Growth is putting pressure on cities, servicing systems and network, and the city will need to invest in upgraded and new infrastructure to accommodate the needs of new development. Provincial policy statement. The provincial policy statement provides policy direction on matters of provincial interest related to land use, planning, and development. The PPS sets the policy foundation for regulating the development and use of land. The key objectives of PPS include building strong communities, wise use and management of resources, and protecting public health and safety. City Council's planning decisions are required to be consistent with the PPS. The proposed development is to occur in a designated settlement area within the city of Belleville. It is intended that the development will contribute to the ongoing growth of the area by providing a highway commercial establishment on Highway 62 in close proximity to both residential and commercial land uses. So in the end, the proposed land uses are consistent with these policies and with the vision of the province and how it has directed new development to occur within its municipalities. City of Belleville Official Plan 2018. The subject land is designated hamlet in the city's official plan. These areas include the hamlets known as Foxborough, Point Anne, Plainfield, so on and so forth. The subject lands are located in the Foxborough area. In accordance with sections 3.12C and 3.12D of the city's official plan, commercial and industrial uses should be compatible with surrounding uses, both existing and proposed, particularly with regard to appearance, traffic generation potential, noise, and any other potential nuance features. The lot size and shape for the new commercial and industrial use should be appropriate to allow the use of and all related accessory uses, adequate ingress and egress, as well as buffering such as fencing, landscaping, and distance separation. The proposed gas bar, a convenience store, and eating establishment will provide necessary services for this automobile traffic with respect to the site design. Ample parking areas and drive aisles have been provided to ensure that vehicular traffic can access and move around the site in a safe and efficient manner and will not have a negative impact on the anticipated pedestrian traffic. The proposal is consistent with the City of Belleville Official Plan 2018. The next slide talks about the zoning bylaw amendment. The reason for the zoning bylaw amendment application is a zoning bylaw amendment application has been submitted to facilitate the proposed development. The subject lands are currently zoned special general commercial -4 C3-4 zone in map A2 Corporation of the Township of Thurlow, comprehensive zoning bylaw number 3014. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is required to add the exception to the special general commercial for C3-4 zone under the provisions of Thurlow zoning bylaw 3014 as amended to add eating establishment use, including drive-in or takeout for the subject property. So once again, the main purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to include an eating establishment, which in this case is going to be a Burger King, complete with a drive-through. No other site-specific development standards are required to facilitate the construction of the proposed building. So once again, we are not looking for any other deviation from the bylaw, whether for setbacks or landscaping or for parking. The proposed eating establishment use, Burger King, is not permitted under section 5.180.12 of non-residential use. The application proposes to amend zoning bylaw 3014 to add eating establishment use within the special general commercial for C3-4 zone. The current site zoning is C3-4. The following provisions shall apply to the use of land and the construction of buildings in all C3 zones. Permitted uses, motor vehicle repair and service, including a gasoline bar, retail, commercial establishment. The setbacks, which are required, minimum setbacks, are front yard is required to be 12 meters, rear yard is required to be 7.5 meters, side yard is required to be 6 meters. Parking requirements, for convenience store, 6 cars are currently required. Drive-through restaurant, the requirement is 7 cars. So the total cars parking spots required are 13 spots, and we have actually provided 20 spaces. So we are over and beyond the requirement of the zoning bylaw as far as the parking is concerned. Quick look at the proposed site plan. Once again, the property is located at the east side of Highway 62. The total site area is 4051 square meters, so about an acre. The frontage is about 61 meters, and the proposed coverage is about 6.4%. Proposed development includes a convenience store with Burger King, approximately 260 square meters, gas canopy with 4 pumps. The site is proposed to have 2 vehicular access points, both from Highway 62, as is clearly visible, from the site plan sketch. The entrances also act as fire routes for the site. The fire route is clearly visible with the dark gray hatched area, and that's depicting the fire route. The fuel storage tanks and truck lay-by area would be located to the rear of the property, along with the Moloch garbage storage system, which is away from the street edge. Accessible parking and bicycle parking are placed near the main entrance of the retail store and connected by a 1.8 meter wide, so about 6 feet wide walkway to the main entrance of the building. Parking for the site is generally located between the gas bar and the retail and an eating establishment buildings. No exception to the zoning standard is required for any of these items. The site plan control application was submitted with the subject application. Details regarding appropriate plant selection, soil volume, and pedestrian walkway materials will be addressed during the site plan approval process through detailed landscape drawings. The design has tried to maximize the landscape areas, especially along street frontages. Additionally, curb returns do not encroach on adjacent property. So the site seems to be self-sufficient. And we have some renderings of the proposed development on this slide, so we can clearly see the 4 pumps towards the front of the property, and we have our proposed convenience store with the drive-through towards the back of the site. The proposed materials, once again, we plan to go with EFIS with a combination of hardy board. Yeah, so this slide depicts the convenience store. So it's a pretty standard convenience store layout that we see in most of the gas stations. If we look at the plan at the bottom of the screen, we have a common entrance that, leads both through the convenience store and to the Burger King food partner. The convenience store has your regular items, like it has an operator's platform, has, displays for product, has a walk-in cooler, office for the operator, washrooms for the patrons. And the Burger King would obviously have a takeout counter, a kitchen, and as you can see, it will also have a drive-through window. Drive-through, I mean, it's pretty interesting since we're all talking through Zoom in this COVID-19 like situation. Drive-throughs, as we all know, have actually become a boon to most of my most of my clients who run restaurants. This is only one of the few things which have kept the revenues flowing. It's also allowed a lot of people to, take out in a very safe, in a safe manner. So I know there were like a lot of pros and cons for drive-throughs, but I think the current situation has added another pro in the favor of restaurants having drive-throughs. This slide basically shows us details for the gas canopy. The gas station at the moment is designated to be a Shell gas station. It'll be dealer operated, so it means it won't be run by Shell Canada. It's going to be run by my client. One of the important things which we can't see in this slide is that we have a clearance of 5 meters to the underside of the canopy, which allows for the safe functioning of the fire truck underneath the canopy. Next slide, please.
That's the last slide.
Oh, that's it. So, well, thank you, everybody, and I appreciate the time. Any questions or comments?
Okay, so I'll open up for questions. Mr. Baltutis.
Sir, I'm not sure if you can answer. You probably know. I'm just curious as the infrastructure. Is there a well septic tank, or does city services go that far out and for fire protection, meaning a fire hydrant?
So I guess we don't have any services at the moment. So I guess each and every item that you've mentioned is what we do have on the site. So yes, we will have a septic system. In fact, if you have our site plan in front of you, you can see towards the back of the site is all that green space is nothing but a septic bed. As far as water is concerned, we are still thinking whether either it's going to be a well or we'll have water hauled to the site. And for sure, to fight fire, we'll most definitely will have an underground tank that has to always stay at a minimum level to fight any kind of fire with, it'll obviously also have some sort of a hydrant or a Siamese connection that the fire department can come and connect.
Thank you. That answers my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Joyce.
Yeah, I took a drive by the property and I was just curious. I assume those involved are okay with the egress and ingress situation, because I know the property north the hardware timber place can only be accessed through Ashley Street on the other side. So I'm just curious how that's going to happen off a really busy road of Highway 62, and what's been done in terms of that particular study at this point.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Joyce. I think that's an excellent question. So it's pretty interesting. We haven't mentioned, the elephant in the room, which in this case happens to be MTO. So this site has been thoroughly vetted by the Ministry of Transportation. We've done a very thorough traffic impact study that they've reviewed, and they're very close to having it approved. As I'm sure a lot of my colleagues, in the planning department would agree that typically Ministry of Transportation doesn't allow two entrances from a highway that it regulates. But in our case, because it's a gas station, they in fact did go ahead and made sure they actually allowed us to have two entrances so that we can have a proper fuel delivery delivered to the site. So I think it's a great question, but we've had proper traffic impact study done, which have been reviewed by our engineer, the engineer at the City of Belleville, and also the engineers at the Ministry of Transportation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see any. Thank you very much. And we also have Gurinder Saran, who's speaking in favor of the application. We'll have you connect here shortly.
One moment, we're just confirming who we're admitting to speak on behalf of this application.
Hello.
Okay, we have an attendee here. Is this Gurinder Saran?
Can you hear me, sir? Yes, this is Gurinder Saran.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, I didn't have the right setting on my phone. Sorry about that. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So thank you everybody for the time, and I think Nitin did the good presentation, so I should be okay with whatever he said.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I was actually not. I was not supposed to speak, as Aaron told me. I was just listening.
Okay, so you're
So
registered as a speaker. So if you have anything you want to add,
no, that's looks good. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Is there any questions for Gurinder Saran?
I can't hear properly, but this all looks good. So I have no questions right now.
Okay, and I have no questions from the committee members. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks everybody for the time.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I need a motion to refer that to the Plan Advisory Committee, which will happen just after this. Councillor Williams, seconded by, I need a councillor. I need a councillor to vote on this one.
Colleen.
Councillor Culhane.
Yep.
And, okay, so moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor Culhane. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, and Councillor Sanderson.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The motion is carried. 3.2, Councillor Williams has declared a pecuniary interest. He'll be removed for this portion of the meeting. Once that is done, then Okay, so Councilor Williams is in the waiting room. So 3.2, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, Millennium Parkway, 21R20-584, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B-77-1105. Owner is 273-7778 Ontario Limited. Applicant is Sunny Panina, and I'll turn it to Ms. McAdam to make the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the subject land is approximately 0.6 hectares in size, 53.42 meters frontage along Millennium Parkway. The lot's presently vacant and zoned as a service industrial exception to holding zone and designated commercial in the official plan. The applicant's proposing to rezone the subject land from the service industrial exception to holding zone to a highway commercial, so C1 zone, with special provisions. So this is to facilitate the construction of a 5-story 95-suite hotel development. The special provisions would provide relief to minimum front yard setback, maximum building height, minimum landscaping strip, as well as minimum parking space width provisions from the highway commercial C1 zone. So those are all from the general provisions of the C1 zone that they're seeking relief. With respect to building height, proposed height is 17.7 meters versus the 11 meter building height that is permitted in the C1 zone. And now with respect to additional comments, no notable public or agency comments have been received at this time. We've received no comments from Fire, the Parks Department, Recreation and Culture, as well as Quinte Conservation has indicated no objections to the application. From an internal comments perspective, the manager of approvals has reviewed the architectural drawings submitted with the application and has noted a few items which may require further relief from the zoning bylaw that were not originally requested. Those are included in the table provided in the initial report. However, I will just briefly describe them. So firstly is the front yard setback, which was requested. However, the architectural drawings do show a different setback at 4.814 meters. An interior side yard setback relief, also relief to setback from the center line of a collector road, relief to the maximum driveway width provision, as well as parking space aisle width. Furthermore, the manager of approvals is also seeking just some more detail with regard to the required landscaping in the rear and loading requirements. Beyond that, the recommendation report will address the further potential further relief required, and I will pass it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And we have Nateem Malhotra registered to make a presentation.
And he's returned to the meeting, and now we need Millennium Parkway.
Mr. Malhotra, you're now in the meeting, and you can proceed with the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I request our colleagues at the IT department to bring up the slideshow for this presentation?
Yeah, he's working on it right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so members of the council, as you can see, I'm proud to say that we are presenting to you and the city of Belleville a very exciting project. It's true. It's True by Hilton. True is a brand new brand that Hilton came up with, and this would be one of the few initial sites that Hilton, is looking forward to have this new branded hotel develop. As you can see from the first look, the building has a very contemporary look, has a very contemporary branding. The exteriors are going to be very contemporary and cutting edge, and the interiors are going to be quite spectacular as well. So just moving on to the project description, the proposed development is a new 5-story True by Hilton hotel with 95 rooms. The building will have a gross floor area of 4195 square meters, so 4,195 square meters. The site will contain 119 parking spaces. The property boundary will include new planting buffers, buffering the hotel from the neighboring properties. The building will be of a contemporary design with EIFS finishes. The west entrance will include a guest drop-off porte cochere. The proposed building will be serviced by new municipal water and sewer. The subject lands will require rezoning to allow for a hotel use. The Provincial Policy Statement, PPS. The vision of the PPS is to build strong communities and facilitation of long-term economic growth through efficient development and land use patterns. Section 1.1.1 promotes the following policies for sustaining health, livable, and safe communities. Promoting efficient development and land use patterns which sustain the financial well-being of the province and the municipalities over the long term, accommodating an appropriate range and mix of residential, employment, including industrial and commercial, institutional, recreational, park, and open space, and other uses to meet long-term needs. Avoiding development and land use patterns that would prevent the efficient expansion of settlement areas into those areas which are adjacent or close to settlement areas. Promoting cost-effective development patterns and standards to minimize land consumption and servicing costs. Settlement areas shall be focus of growth and development, and their vitality and regeneration shall be promoted. Policy 1.1.3.2 provides that land use patterns within settlement areas shall be based on densities and a mix of land uses which accommodating an appropriate range and mix of residential, employment, institutional, recreational, park, and open space, and other uses to meet the long-term provincial needs. Efficiently use land and resources. Are these uses appropriate for, based on the current infrastructure, public service facilities which are planned or available, and avoid the need for their unjustified or uneconomical expansion? Supportive active transportation. The subject site is within 5 minutes walking distance from Route 4, which connects to Quinte Mall. City of Belleville Official Plan 2018. The subject land is designated commercial in the City of Belleville Official Plan in accordance with sections 3.12C and 3.12D. The proposed development is in the Bell Boulevard area. Bell Boulevard is one of the 4 district areas of major commercial activity. Hotel use is permitted in the Bell Boulevard area. So once again, a hotel use is permitted in the Bell Boulevard area as per section 3.9.2.b. The Bell Boulevard area's role as a major focus of employment and retail activity within the region would be enhanced through development of retail, highway commercial, and residential commercial uses. As a gateway to the community, the image of the Bell Boulevard area should be enhanced through policies emphasizing a high level of urban design, coordination of separate developments to function cooperatively, landscaping, and efficient traffic circulation. The proposed 5-story hotel building with a high level of urban design, coordinated landscaping, and functional vehicular circulation would create a landmark for the commercial area of Bell Boulevard. Now we are on to the site and surrounding areas. The subject site is located north of Highway 401 on Millennium Parkway between Cloverleaf Drive and Sydney Street. The total site is approximately 0.61 hectare in area with land currently covered with grass, so the site's currently vacant. It's never been developed. The subject lands are currently undeveloped and do not contain any existing buildings or structures. The property is surrounded by Millennium Parkway and vacant land to the south, low-rise residential to the north, community living on adjacent properties to the west, and medical services on the adjacent properties to the east. So this is a quick slide that showcases the site with its surrounding area. The top slide, shows a bigger picture of what's happening in the Bell Boulevard. And then the second slide, figure 3, is basically we are now zooming onto our site, shows the Millennium Parkway in the front, residential at the back, and then we have community living on one side and the medical facility on the other. So as Desta pointed out, we are currently requesting a zoning bylaw amendment. The current zoning is service industrial, and we would like to propose a highway commercial zone C1. This was as per the pre-consultation discussions we had with the city staff. And this is one of the things we did discuss, that rather than changing the service industrial, we should propose the zoning on the site to be C1, and that would make the things a little bit more streamlined from point of view of zoning and planning. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is required to rezone the lands from service industrial zone to highway commercial C1 zone, as the current zoning does not permit a hotel use under the provisions of the Thurlow zoning bylaw number 3014, as amended with site-specific development standards are required to facilitate the construction of the proposed hotel. Now, within the C1 zone, we are requesting the following 6 variances. We are requesting that the minimum front yard setback be allowed to be 5 meters from the 12 meters as permitted, reduction to the minimum side yard setback to be 4.5 meters compared to 6 meters as permitted. We would like to increase the maximum height of the building from 11 meters to 17.7 meters. We would like to reduce the landscaping strip for north of the subject property from 3 meters to 1.2 meters. The reduction in parking space width is also requested from 3 to 2.4 meters. And last, we're also requesting the reduction in parking drive aisle width from 7 to 6.7 meters. So this slide pretty much showcases the site plan that we are proposing. The footprint of the building is a quintessential true by Hilton design that is predominantly handed to us by Hilton and their designers and architects. We've obviously had some say, me and the owner, we've gone through the layout and we have made the changes or slight modifications to the design that we think, would add to this development and would also make this development a viable business model for my client. The site, as you can see, has a single access. This access, works very well with the designated fire route as well. We have a porte cochere right next to this main entrance, and we have the main hotel building to the right of the proposed entrance, with the majority of the parking towards the back of the site, including the loading and the garbage area, which is tucked away rather nicely right behind the hotel building. The property details: the property is located at the north side of Millennium Parkway. The total site area is about 6,000 square meters. The frontage is 53.4 meters. The coverage that we are proposing is 13.7%. Landscape area is about 14.2%. parking exceeds the minimum requirement with 119 spaces. So 117 spaces are required, and we are over and above the minimum required parking stalls by providing 119 spaces. The site, as was mentioned before, has one vehicular access point. The entrance also acts as a fire route for the site. Next slide, please. So here we are at the main floor plan. So this is a standard hotel layout with the porte cochere and an entrance. You know, there's a reception area, and then there's a games area. There's a dining, which is also used for breakfast. And on the main level, we have other amenities like fitness, guest laundry, elevators, and then in the end, we have some guest rooms as well. Next slide, please. This is a typical second to fifth floor plan, which is typical in the sense that it revolves around a central core that is comprised of 2 elevators. And then we have 2 fire escape staircases at the end of the long corridor. And on the either side of this corridor is where we have the different guest rooms. We have, in this hotel, we have 57 king suites. We have 29 double queen suites. We have 5 accessible suites, and we have 4 double queen accessible suites as well. On the right side, you can see it's a blow up of a typical double bed queen suite, which has 2 queen size beds, mini fridge, television, obviously has a bathroom, has some work area as well as a closet. And we have some colored renderings on the slide. So once again, as mentioned before, this is one of the latest branded hotels from Hilton. And this is one of their newest and contemporary designs and styles that we are looking to bring into Belleville. And we have some more views and renderings of the proposed development. The top left, you can clearly see the porte cochere. And then I would also like to mention, because this is our last slide, that that we have this very unique and interesting fin that, as you can see, that almost juts out from the building, which is a branding element that Hilton is proposing in this brand. And with this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and please let me know if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation and questions. Mr. Belfius.
Thank you. My question is, have you reached out, or anybody from your architectural firm or the owner reached out around to the neighbors to discuss this development with them? Just be curious as to see if the neighbors had in common.
I believe the owner, my client, Sunny, did reach out to some of the owners at the back of our property, and I'm sure he'll be speaking soon, so maybe he can throw some light to your question.
Thank you. I look forward to his comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Sunny Punina is next, and we'll get him connected to the meeting. Okay, Sunny Punina is in the meeting. Your microphone is muted. You will proceed to unmute your microphone, and you have the floor. Sunny Pina, you are connected to the meeting, but your microphone is muted. There we go. Sunny Pina?
Yeah, it's me. Sorry, I got stuck in the elevator.
Oh.
The elevators are down.
Okay.
Take my dog out.
You are live in a committee meeting, and you have the floor.
Sorry, I'm not sure what the meeting discussed so far.
It was in reference to an application for a hotel on Millennium Parkway.
Yeah, that's right.
The architect just did a presentation. You were registered in support of the application, and you are live in a planning committee meeting right now. Do you wish to speak on your application at all?
No, I just came on live. So if there were any questions, I can answer.
Okay, I believe there is a question that will be coming your way. Mr. Baltutis.
Sunny, my question was, have you reached out to the neighbors in behind that are the property in question in the hotel and how it's going to affect them all along on Cloverleaf?
I was planning on doing that. I was actually planning on having an open house, but due to COVID, never really got to that part. I did not know how the neighbors would react. Like due to the virus, somebody, a random stranger coming to their door and asking questions. So that's one of the reasons I did not approach any of the neighbors.
Okay, we'll leave it at that, I guess.
Okay. Any other questions from community members? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. And so with that, I need a motion to refer to the Planning Advisory Committee, council members only. Councillor Kelly, seconded by, and Councillor Sanderson or Councillor Culhane, I'm advised you have to press *6 to unmute your phone.
Sanderson.
Councillor Sanderson will second that motion. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly and Councillor Culhane.
Can you hear me?
Yes?
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Motion is carried. We'll bring Councillor Williams back into the meeting. There we go. So 3.3, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 464 Mitchell Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings. Owner applicant is Sean Milne, and I'll turn it over to the manager of policy planning for presentation.
Well, we have the presentation slides just getting back up and running. I'll just give a brief explanation of the application. So the subject land, known as 464 Mitchell Road, is approximately 38.5 hectares in area, is improved with a dwelling and a farm. The property is currently zoned prime agriculture as well as hazard zone, and the land is designated prime agriculture and environmental protection in the city's official plan. So with respect to the proposal, the applicant's proposing to rezone from the prime agriculture zone and hazard zone to a site-specific prime agricultural zone to add a brewery and a distillery as a permitted accessory use to that zoning. The hazard zoning on the property would be retained and is not impacted or affected by the application. Specifically, the applicant's proposing to use a portion of the existing barn, already improving the property, to initiate this this proposed brewery and I believe cidery as well and distillery. The application indicates that the the use would be initiated as a 30 square meter area in the existing barn as a pilot project to test interest in the area, with future expansion to another portion of the barn. From a submission perspective, it was a sketch of the proposal that was included and attached in the planning report. This proposal will be reviewed with reference to the provincial mandate to implement on-farm diversified uses, and the property is currently used for agricultural purposes. From internal and agency comments, there's been no notable comments received at this time. We have, as staff, received public correspondence and public comments relating to the application. Public correspondence and comments range from interest in the application to understand if the application will be approved, to objections to the application citing environmental concerns, among other concerns. The objections to the applications were included in the initial planning report. Since the publication of that report, we have received additional comments from the same member of the public, as well as a new member of the public has provided additional comments. So the planning staff will provide and address comments in the recommendation report that will be further brought forward. And that's it for me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So we have Sean Milne is the applicant. We'll have him join the meeting. Hey, Mr. Milne, you're in the meeting. You just need to unmute your microphone and you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the introduction. I haven't prepared any formal proposal. I think it was covered fairly well in the introduction. Maybe a little more background. I'm currently the owner and resident at 464 Mitchell. I've owned the property for approximately 15 years. Prior to me purchasing the property, it was a rather large dairy operation. When I purchased it, the dairy operation had kind of slowed. The farmer had retired and he still had some livestock. But the proposed brewery location is in the large dairy barn, which has pretty much been underutilized since I purchased the property. I use it for storage and some livestock, but certainly it's been underutilized, and the brewery is a good way to make use of an existing building. I've also been growing hops and barley on the farm, and hoping to add further value to those products by brewing the beer and selling the beer. So yeah, I'm certainly open to any questions.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for Mr. Milne? Ms. Brown.
I'm curious, Mr. Milne, you talk about using a percentage of the area if it was rezoned for test purposes. What are you anticipating that would look like?
Well, the area that I'm proposing right now is converting the old milk house, which has existing water and drainage built into it, and use that as the kind of the pilot brewery for small scale brewing to kind of test the market and grow a customer base.
Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have Ms. Annette Prudent, who has registered as against the application, and we'll have her join the meeting. my understanding that she was having difficulty logging on. Just going to confer for a second. Thank you. So Ms. Pruden is not available to connect to the meeting, but I'm advised by the clerk that she has provided submissions that has gone to city staff, and they're reviewing them. So with that, can I get a motion to refer this to the Planning Advisory Committee? Council members, Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Williams. All in favor? Okay, I have two hands. Councillor Standison. Councillor Standison? Yes. Councillor Culhane. Councillor Culhane. Councillor Culhane. Yes.
There we are. Sorry, technical difficulties. Is Mr. Milne still at the mic?
No, he is out of the meeting now.
I was trying to reach him just to ask him, perhaps he mentioned, has he had any conversation with the primary complainant? That's all I wanted to know.
Okay, we're going to bring him back in.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Milne has joined the meeting again. Councillor Culhane actually has a question for you, Mr. Milne. Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Milne, I just wondered if you'd had any opportunity to speak directly with the primary objection person. Just as a member of the public who corresponded on the 12th of May, I can't access that correspondence to see whether it was between the two of you. But so I don't have the man's name, but he had several objections.
No, I haven't had any conversations directly. It wasn't until I read through the agenda that I even knew that anybody had objected.
Okay.
Now, sorry, the person that was trying to join, I didn't catch their name. Is that the same individual you're referring to?
That was probably me. I'm having some technical issues on the other end here. I don't know whether the person attempted to join. I don't even have their name, and I don't have their correspondence. Because they had a number of objections. Number one, I wondered if they were at the meeting, but apparently not. And number two, I wondered if you'd been able to speak with them directly about their issues, because they're up to and including air emissions. But I guess you haven't. And that's just what I wanted to know, if there'd been any direct interaction between the two of you. Thank you.
Yeah, the individual is Annette Pruden. She's registered as against the application.
Okay, but she didn't attend this meeting.
No, she was attempting to attend, but she was having technical difficulties.
Okay, I know Annette.
She has provided significant submissions, and staff are reviewing them.
Okay.
So through the chair, it's Councillor Sanderson. I'd like to ask a question of John as well, if I could.
Yep, please proceed.
So my question for you, John, you had mentioned that when the barn was being utilized as dairy, you had source water that you were using in the facility. So I just wondered, what was the source of the water? Was it a drilled well, or was it something else?
Yeah, there's a good well on the property. Any farm that would support 300 cattle has to have a good source of water. So we've never had any issues with water here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, actually, while I have you on, Mr. Milne, I want to just ask a question regarding water. So in terms of how much water do you envision drawing from in terms of your brewery business? Would it be equivalent to what would draw on the head of cattle that used to exist there?
Certainly not in the beginning. The pilot setup would be very small, and I wouldn't come close to what the cattle would have been taking. If I were to expand in the future, I'd have to look at that time I certainly wouldn't be able to take any more water than the well would support. But again, 300 cattle or so, they drink a lot of water when they're producing milk.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I know procedurally I did have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Williams, and Councillor Sanderson, yes, to refer this. And Councillor Culhane, just an acknowledgement, yes or no to refer.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Thank you both. That motion's carried. Okay, moving along, 3.4, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended, 144 Avondale Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings. File number is B-77-1107. Owner applicant is Matt Gaisbret, and agent is Caitlin Sheehan of Ainley Group. And I'll turn it over to the manager of policy planning for presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll see if we can get the presentation slide running, but I will begin my overview. The subject land is a residential lot at the northwest corner of Avondale Road and Aldersgate Drive. It's approximately 1,871.5 square meters in lot area, and having a lot frontage of 21.3 meters along Avondale Road and 65.15 meters frontage on Aldersgate Drive. The lot's presently improved with a single detached dwelling that fronts on Avondale Road. The property is zoned residential first density zone, so an R1 zone, and designated residential in our official plan. The applicant is proposing to rezone the rear portion of the property, as you can see in the slide on the screen here, marked in the hashed demarcation. And as a condition of, or as a anticipated condition of consent applications B1120 and B1220. So consent applications B11 and B1220 propose to sever two new approximately 567 meter to 570 square meter residential lots from the surplus rear yard area of the subject land. The intended use for the new residential lots is for new single detached dwellings on each. So in terms of the rezoning application, the residential 1 zone would need to be changed over the proposed severed parcels to recognize the proposed lot dimensions for the severed lands. That being said, the retained parcel would maintain the R1 zoning as it meets the minimum dimension requirements of the R1 zone. So the rear yard area would be proposed to be rezoned to an R2 zone, which would recognize the proposed lot frontages of 15 meters and the proposed lot areas. With respect to supporting documents, a sketch was of the proposed severance and rezoning was included. In terms of internal or agency comments, no notable internal comments have been received to date. Quinte Conservation have indicated no objections. Fire Department, Parks Department, Recreation, Culture and Community Service also indicated no comments. We have received written submissions from neighboring property owners with regard to this application. The public correspondence will be analyzed and reviewed and addressed in the recommendation report brought forward by planning in the future. Due to circumstances surrounding COVID-19, I should mention that the Committee of Adjustment applications concurrently filed in relation to this application for rezoning have not yet gone before the Committee of Adjustment. They are expected to later in June, and we will await a decision on in that regard as well. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So we have Ms. Caitlin Sheehan from Ainley Group, registered to make the presentation.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councillor Culhane.
I wasn't sure if I'd lost you. I didn't hear a thing.
We're just waiting for Ms. Sheehan to join the meeting.
Okay.
I'm in the meeting now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You
Okay.
have the floor.
Okay, I'm not sure if you can see me, but the staff report is a good summary of our project. And like Desta said, we are waiting for the Committee of Adjustment to have our severance application brought forward, which, you know, this rezoning really, it relies on the severances happening too. But we were unaware of any comments that were brought forward on this application until just now. But I don't have any formal presentation prepared because the city's report was a good summary of what we're doing. And I'm available along with the property owners. They're with me. So if there's any questions we can answer, please feel free.
Okay, thank you. And I'll ask if there's any questions to committee members.
I would have a question in
Go ahead,
turn.
Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A general question. One of the concerns of the people on the street, and I know some, is there any potential, if this application is granted and those 2 residences are approved, is there any potential for one residence to be built and one to become a right-of-way for the back parts of all the other houses?
I don't think so. They're both 15 meters wide, and a right-of-way for the city would need to be 20 meters wide.
Okay.
So our intention is to sell them as 2 building lots, fully serviced, ready for a single family residential unit, 15-meter frontage.
So that would occupy all of that space.
Exactly. It would just be, 2 new nice lots fronting Elders Gate Road. It'd be consistent with the, the development right next door, Potters Creek, with some of the bigger single-family residences there.
Right.
Yeah, there would be no intention at all to create a road there, and it also wouldn't probably be supported by the city anyways. So.
Okay, thank you. That was one of the questions I was asked today, and I should have called one of the staff, but I just didn't get home in time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you very much, Ms. Sheehan.
Thank you.
And we do not have any other people registered for this presentation. And so with that, I'll get a motion to refer it to the Planning Advisory Committee.
I'll refer.
Okay, Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That's carried. 3.5, Mr. Jennings has declared a conflict, so we'll have staff remove him into the waiting room for a moment. Certainly appreciate everybody's patience with this technology. These are long meetings, but they're a little extra long with the technology. Okay, Mr. Jennings is in the waiting room. 3.5 is notice of complete application, introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to the Loyalist secondary plan as amended and zoning bylaw number 2076-80 as amended. Walbridge Loyalist Road, part lot 31, concession 1, part 1 on registered plan 21R-19789, City of Belleville, County of Hastings. File number is B-77-1108. Owner is Quinney Business Development Center Incorporated. Applicant agent is Spencer Hutchison with RFA Planning Consultant. I'll turn it to the Manager of Policy Planning for presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the subject land is approximately 1.13 hectares in lot area with around 60 meters frontage on Walbridge Loyalist Road, which is an arterial road at the western boundary of the city. The subject land is located immediately south of the existing Loyalist College campus, where I understand the existing Quinte Business Development Center is located within the Pioneer building there. The subject property lot is presently undeveloped and consists mainly of mixed vegetation. The purpose of the application is that the applicant is proposing to develop a 600 square meter business development center, so a public facility consisting of offices, educational training facility, co-working spaces, a meeting room next to Loyalist College to continue with, as the application suggests, the existing synergies between the Business Development Center and Loyalist campus that have been established already. To facilitate the development, the applicant is proposing to redesignate the land in the Loyalist secondary plan area from residential to community facility. They are also requesting to rezone the property from a rural residential zone, or a residential rural zone, I should say, to a community facility zone. The application does not request any site-specific provisions. With regards to supporting documentation, there was a site servicing letter provided, a traffic impact brief, and a planning justification report. In summary, it's proposed that the land be privately serviced. The traffic impact brief indicated that there should not be further traffic concerns in relating to the proposal, given the existing traffic lights as a control further north at Loyalist College. And to this date, there's been no notable internal or agency comments. Environmental and operational services, as well as our Recreation and Cultures Division, have indicated no comments. We have received written submissions from neighboring property owners with regard to the application, one of them being a general comments and questions, others from the same property being objections to the application. These will all be analyzed and reviewed and submitted with the recommendation report when it is brought back forward by staff. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And we have Spencer Hutchison will make the presentation. We'll have him join the meeting here.
Hello?
Councillor Culhane.
No. Every once in a while, it just fades away completely.
It's just quiet while we're patiently waiting for the technology to have Mr. Hutchison join the meeting, and I see he has joined.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, folks. I would like to thank the committee for this opportunity and for their stepping into a brand new world of technology. It's quite a feat, and thank you for doing it, and for staff in corporate services, IT, and planning to facilitate this. We could bring up the 6 slides. I can speak to them in a second. Along with myself, there's Amber Darling, who is the Executive Director of Trendval and the Quinte Business Development Center, and Mr. Chris Morton of Morton Engineering, a civil engineer who has helped us on this project. So as shown on this opening slide, Quinte Business Development Center, also known as Trendval, are the proponents. They purchased this land in late 2019 from the city of Belleville, and therefore now they're going forward with this proposal. Next slide. This is a bit of a rundown of who Trendval and the Business Center are, with a lot of their partner logos around the outside edges. I think many people are aware of their work, but job creation, facilitating regional economic development, consulting, business counseling, information services, industry and manufacturing support, self-employment, creating a business hub is what this is all about. I'm not controlling this. Zero cost to businesses. And as you can appreciate, at the present time, these good folks at the Business Center are very, very busy trying to help our local business with the economics of the last 9 or 10 weeks, providing information and workshops in consultation with Loyalist College. If we go to the next slide, please. So again, this outlines, what the intent of the building is. It's to increase services and support for the business sector. It's a co-working space for entrepreneurs, which could be a thing of the future where people won't actually go into their own offices anymore. Flexible meeting spaces, training space for workshops. And so they want a professional building that will stand out a little bit more than it does now, where they're part of the campus of Loyalist. They want, and we'll see in a second or two, a building of their own to present themselves and their partners and all the entrepreneurs to the business world as a place you can come in and it's set apart. Next slide, please. So it's a heavily wooded, treed site just south of Loyalist, south of the residence. It's over just over a hectare in size and over 60 meters wide. As said, it's still treed largely with no development. It's been that way for many, many years. And as I said, up until late last year, the land was owned by the city. Next one. So this is the beginning of the site plan, 600 square meter building, L-shaped, parking for almost 50 cars on the west side of the property from one driveway, a septic system to the east. And if you look at the overall diagram, I would say 35% of the property is used and 65% is left treed. And the intent is to have a good solid buffer around the outside edges of the property to leave trees and to keep a somewhat forested environment. Next slide. This is a concept of the insides of the building with a main entrance on the bottom left, southwest corner. This would be so you'd have main corridor with offices where people could come in, meet with their consultants. Further back would be other office spaces and a co-working space. And towards the north end is a meeting hall, a training room, and that could be shared in the community. And the next slide is a rendering of the building facing the west to the street to hopefully match in with its wooded environment and the existing environment. In the next slide, this is just a official plan map. Ms. McAdam outlined some of the background and it's well outlined in the documentation. Essentially, as you can see, we have community facility designation to the north and east and residential to the south. In essence, it's a mapping change to make the area in black community facility to facilitate this building. And the next slide is the zoning. Same thing, in blue is community facility zoning. The light yellow is agricultural to the east, southeast, a legacy of the old Sydney Township. And to the south is rural residential with single detached lots on big wooded lots and trees. And again, you could argue this is a mapping change to bring the blue community facility down by 60 meters. Last slide. So any questions? Myself, Amber, and Chris are around. I'd also like to congratulate staff on creating a new city webpage on the city website where all the current applications being discussed tonight are posted, and all the supporting documentation that we have submitted is posted there for anyone to read and reply to. I must say at this hour, I had not heard until a few minutes ago that any comments have been submitted, so I'm a bit in the dark of what the questions or issues are, but I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Is there any questions, Mr. Hutchison, from committee members? Okay, I don't see any, and I've heard any. So with that, thank you.
Have a good
And
evening.
thank you. And so we have two individuals registered to speak against the application. First one is Doug Leadbeater, and we'll have staff admit this individual into the meeting. Give us a second while one gets removed and one gets added. Okay, Mr. Leadbeater, you are in the meeting. If you want to unmute your microphone, and you have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and all members present. Yes, so my name is Doug Leadbeater. I currently reside at 240 Walbridge Loyalist. When you look at the zoning map that we just looked at, I am the second property south of the one in question. So I had submitted my objections to this development for several reasons. First, and probably foremost, was I can't help but feeling there must be some other property in the city that would be equally as suitable without having to rezone a residential property. If anybody is familiar with this property, if you've driven by it, they are unique properties here. There are only 5, including the one in question. And they are considered rural residential. They're all approximately 2 acres in size. Very, very quiet, very private. Now I just, one of the concerns I had, and I just got the answer from the previous speaker on the size of the parking that was going to be involved. So he mentioned parking for 46 cars. So with the potential of 46 vehicles entering and exiting off of this property is another concern for me. In the introduction to it, it was noted that the lot could be serviced by the traffic light, which is currently used for entering Loyalist College property. I don't think that's quite accurate. There is no connection from this property to Loyalist property. There would have to be some sort of a roadway put in from the parking lot at Loyalist to attach this property. I did not see it in any of the drawings. Having 46 vehicles entering and exiting onto Walbridge Loyalist Road, which is a busy road, as you know, is a concern for me. I am also concerned about the amount of litter that will accumulate on a property that is going to be used commercially. It has already started to migrate from the college south. It also the septic system and the water system. I suppose that's been studied and it could support the intended building. However, it would put a strain on the area, and being in close proximity to an environmental protected area, to me, just doesn't make sense. And again, there's got to be some other property available or an existing building that can be renovated for this use. I understand that Trend Val is in cooperation with Loyalist College and is working with them. They're currently operating out of the Pioneer building. Perhaps the building has become outdated for their use. I'm not sure. And I don't know if any consideration has been made to ask Loyalist College to offer up some of their property to put in this new development center. They've got a lot of property that is already appropriately zoned. I don't know what else I can say. I did put a few of my concerns in writing. I sent them in to you. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at them. If anybody has a question for me, I'm here.
Okay, so staff, do you have your submissions, and anything that you've provided today is will be considered as well. Any questions to Mr. Ledbeater? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you very much. And so he'll leave the meeting, and then we have Justin Ledbeater, who is registered as opposed, and we'll get him into the meeting. Mr. Ledbeater, you are in the meeting. I see you're unmuted now.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Justin Ledbeater. I reside, sorry, we just got to do that. I reside at 240 Waldridge Loyalist Road here. I just have a few concerns. I do oppose this development. I'm just going to bring up a few of my concerns with this. The current southwest corner of Loyalist College is currently used as a smoking area. There's tons of littered smokers' butts, there's broken glass. Last week, a couple weeks ago, I went out there. There was a smashed recreational filtration device, discarded surgical gloves. With this development, that'll just push all those smokers closer to the residential areas on this road. In fact, Loyalist College security actively tells the smokers to go smoke in that corner of the property, and has even set up a table and garbage for them to do so. My next point is I'm also a former student of Loyalist College, and one of the classes I did have to take was sustainability, and Loyalist College does have a sustainability policy where their mission is to minimize the college's impact on the environment through prudent and creative management, social, economic, and environmental resources. This development, in my mind, is not minimizing its environmental impact on the property in the area, especially considering it is in between the Queenie Conservation Area and an environmentally protected area. I do appreciate the concern with the traffic being brought up with the traffic light, but based on the images that I'm seeing, the parking lot is actually going to be closer to our property as opposed to Loyalist College, so that traffic light has no impact to the traffic going in and out of that building in the proposed development. As you said, the property is 1.13 hectares. It was described as a heavily wooded area and even shown in pictures as heavily wooded, but that is not the case. Actually, someone already took the liberty of going in there and cutting down 1.13 hectares of trees, which is, in my mind, once again, a huge impact on the environment. Overall, to sum up, I don't want the congregation of all those students and staff closer towards the residential areas, dumping their garbage and broken glass everywhere, and the increase of foot traffic and vehicle traffic as well to the residential areas. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of the committee members for Mr. Ledbeater? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you very much for your presentation. And so with that, I need a motion to refer the committee to the committee.
I'll make that.
Councillor Sanderson, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
That motion's carried. And we'll get Mr. Jennings back in the meeting. And there we go. So we'll move on to 3.6, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 247 Harmony Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings. File number is B-77-1109. Owner applicant is Marlene McKenzie, and agent is Keith Watson of Watson Land Surveyors. And I'll turn this over to Manager Policy Planning for presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the property known as 247 Harmony Road is approximately 9.8 hectares in lot area with 44.5 meters frontage along Harmony Road. The land is presently zoned prime agriculture and by Law 3014 and designated rural in the city's official plan. Consent application B5-20 approved the severance of 9.4 hectares from the subject land to be added to the abutting lot to the east. As a condition of consent, the retained parcel, which contains the residential dwelling as well as the former barn building, which is approximately 0.4 hectares inside and has frontage along Harmony Road, is required as part of a condition of consent to be rezoned from prime agriculture to an appropriate rural residential zone category. That being said, the proposed rural residential zone category would need to reflect the current lot frontage of 44.5 meters, which is slightly deficient with regard to the existing rural residential zone provisions. This would need to be addressed through the recommendation report to be brought forward by staff. Beyond this, there have been no notable public, internal, or agency comments with respect to this application. And with that being said, I will pass it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And we have Keith Watson and Jennifer Matthews making a presentation in favor of the application. And we'll have two staff have them join the meeting. Okay, Mr. Watson is in the meeting. Unmute your microphone. And there we go.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm strictly here just to support the application and to answer any questions that may come up. It's just simply a surplus farm dwelling, and we're just rezoning it to rural residential as requested by the native adjustment.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of committee members? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Watson. And with that, I need a motion to refer to the Planning Advisory Committee. Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Williams, and all in favor?
Yes.
Councillor Culhane?
Yeah.
And Councillor Sanderson. Motion's carried. Thank you. 3.7, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 406 Maitland Drive, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file numbers B-77-1110. Owner is Andy Gertzma, applicant is the GCC Developments Limited, and Manager of Policy Planning will do a presentation.
The subject land is known as 406 Maitland Drive, which you can see on the key map shown in the presentation slide. The subject land is approximately 5,723 square meters in lot area with 61.6 meters frontage along Maitland Drive. The property is presently developed. It's improved with a 12-unit, 1,665 square meter commercial plaza and associated parking facilities. The property is presently zoned general industrial exception 16 zone, as well as a hazard zone, which you see that slight sliver there adjacent to Moira River in the presentation slides. And it's designated industrial and open space in the city's official plan. The applicant is proposing to rezone the M116 portion of the property to add an additional permitted use to permit a veterinarian clinic that performs orthopedic surgeries and rehabilitation. This use would be wholly contained within an existing vacant unit in the existing commercial plaza. There would be no enlargement or extension to the existing development as a result of this proposal. Also, the hazard zone would not be changed as a result of this proposal. With regard to supporting documents, a planning justification was provided, report was provided by the applicant, and it is included with the initial report. The M116 zone does already provide some additional permitted uses, which one could say lend to this a quasi-commercial use over the property, and the rezoning would be just adding one additional use and maintaining the existing zoning as the M116 zone with this added additional veterinarian clinic permitted use. I'll pass it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And we have Andy Gertzma speaking in favor of the application. We get staff to add to the meeting. Mr. Gertzma, you have the floor, sir.
Hello, folks. Mr. Chair, members of the council, members of the Planning Advisory Committee, thank you for hearing this application this evening. As Planner McAdam mentioned, this is a request for an additional use for unit number 6 at Maitland Plaza, and that's to accommodate veterinary orthopedic surgeries and rehabilitation. The current permitted uses that are similar are professional offices and service-oriented commercial. This particular use has been requested for dogs and cats only, and they will not be providing any overnight hospitalization or boarding. So the traffic expectations are minimal. Tenant expects only 1 to 2 pets in the facility at any one time. The unit is about 1,454 square feet in area, and these lands have been recently serviced with city water and sewer. And I think the rest of the application was well covered by Planner McAdam, but I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee members? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you very much, Mr. Gertzma. And so with that, I need a motion to refer the Planning Advisory Committee. Moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Councillor Sanderson, Councillor Culhane, motion's carried. And I need a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting.
I'll move that.
Councillor Sanderson, all in favor? Motion is carried.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Planning Advisory Committee meeting. I see everybody in attendance. Disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just as before, 6.2, please.
Okay, that is noted. And Mr. Jennings. You just need to unmute your microphone, Mr. Jennings. There you go.
Yeah, I'd like to declare a conflict for 6.5, please.
6.5. Yeah, and that is noted, and the clerk has the documentation. Thank you. 3.1, confirmation of minutes of the planning or City Council Planning Committee meeting and Planning Advisory Committee meeting held March 2nd, 2020, and the special Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on May 19th, 2020. So I get a motion for that. Mr. Joyce, seconded by Mr. Baltutis. Any questions or comments? If none, all in favor?
Yes.
Motion.
Yes.
Motion's carried. We have no deputations, no correspondence, Mr. Clerk. And moving on, referrals from the public meeting. 6.1, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 8092 Highway 62, City of Belleville, County of Hastings. File number is B-77-1104. The owner is Gurinder Saran. Applicant is Nitin Malhotra. Policy Planners Report number PP-2020-17 refers. The resolution reads that report number PP-2020-17 dated June 1st, 2020 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 892 Highway 62, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public how many agencies and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering Development Services Department. Motion, mover for that. Councillor Williams, seconded by Ms. Brown. Any questions or comments? Councillor Kelly. Sorry, Councillor Kelly, I saw you. Oh, no, okay, never mind. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Brown.
I just wanted to reiterate a discussion that was had during the public meeting. I have some concerns about that area of Highway 62 in terms of the entrance and exit. We all know that past north of Ashley tends to become a very frequent speedway, and that people don't always follow the 80-kilometer legislated speed, and that it becomes quite a thoroughfare on its way up to Sterling and Tweed. So I have concerns that the entrance and exit are on a highway that has nothing more than a shoulder, and wondered if there would be consideration for a turning lane that would allow them to move off Highway 62 and therefore limit the impact that it would have on the ongoing traffic between the two. That may in fact be an MTO issue, but I am concerned about the amount of traffic, particularly in the summer months, moving up towards the Bancroft area.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Joyce.
Hence why I asked the question originally in the first part. I'm just not sure why the building north wasn't allowed access off 62. So that begs the question, why would this be acceptable and the building north not acceptable? So I guess I know it's an MTO or MTO involved decision, but I agree with Ms. Brown that I'd like to get some direction there, because obviously the building north had to go up to the next intersection around and enter off Ashley. So just curious why.
Okay, staff will inquire about that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I don't. Councillor Sanderson, your microphone's activated. Okay, maybe not. Sorry about that. One thing just for staff that I would like to make sure that we cover is the issue regarding potable water. The applicant made reference to a well or a storage tank, and also indicated that a storage tank would be available for fire suppression, and also indicated that the tank may be just used for potable. I've heard anecdotally that there has been some water table issues in that area, and understand Foxborough Public School being in the vicinity and with a number of students is a high consumer of well water in that area. And so I'd just like to get some comments on the best option for a water source that doesn't impact the existing property owners in that area. If I can do that, thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments?
If I can, Chair?
Yep, Councillor Sanderson, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So just on this as well, I'd like to hear from staff whether there's a need for an environmental assessment of that piece of property. I did hear that they had mentioned they were going to put in a septic at the rear of the property, but would an EA or the need for an EA just be part of the normal process for our guys?
I'll refer that to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Right now, an EA has not been triggered for this property. They would have to, in terms of providing the septic, they'd have to obviously get approvals for that septic when they go to get the permit for it. as part of this rezoning application, no environmental assessment has been triggered for the application.
Okay, thank you.
Just in follow-up, this Councillor Sanderson kind of going down. What about a hydrological study?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Currently, I'm not aware of any hydrological study being triggered for the application. They did provide a functional servicing and stormwater management report, but essentially that's all. It was reviewed by our Quinte Conservation Authority, and they have not provided any objections to the application, and they did provide a comment letter. The only concern that was even noted on that one was in terms of storage on the surface parking lot, and that was the only thing that they had kind of flagged as a potential issue, but otherwise they hadn't flagged anything else. That being said, we can always check back in with the appropriate staff members to ensure that no further information is needed at this stage.
Thank you. Okay. You're good, Councillor Sanderson?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so motions on the floor. All in favor? That motion's carried. Thank you. 6.2, notice of complete application. Oh, sorry, Councillor Williams has got a conflict on this. Get him removed. In the waiting room. Okay. Councillor Williams is in the waiting room. 6.2, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, Millennium Parkway, part of lots 29 and 30, Plan 22, Part 6, Plan 21R 2584, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number is B-77-1105. Owner is 2737778 Ontario Limited. Applicant is Sunny Panina. A policy planner's report number PP-2020-18. The resolution reads that report number PP-2020-18 dated June 1st, 2020 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, Millennium Parkway, parts of lot 29 and 30, Plan 22, Part 6, Plan 21R 2584, City of Belleville, County of Hastings be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering Development Services Department. Mr. Joyce, seconded by Mr. Jennings. Any questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Joyce.
Just through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. McAdam there, we mentioned about a number of exceptions to the norm, setbacks, et cetera, and you also mentioned in your presentation that there was others to come. Like, are we talking a lot, or what can we expect in the next version with additional exceptions to the rule here?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll be a bit more specific so that that you're aware. It is in the initial report, and it's formatted in an additional table in the section on the zoning bylaw. So it's with respect to, now they did request for a front yard setback relief. However, I believe their request was 5.05 meter setback. However, the architectural drawings did show a setback of 4.814 meters. So there was just a discrepancy that needs to be understood and recognized there. So that's actually the same relief, but a greater relief being potentially requested there. The interior side yard setback. So the C1 zone requires a 6 meter setback. The architectural drawings show a 4.589 meter side yard setback, interior side yard. There's also a provision with regard to setback from center line of Collector Road. So this would be in addition to a front yard setback required by the zoning bylaw. They also provide, the bylaw also provides that minimum setback from center line. So the C1 zone requires a 25.4 meter setback, whereas the architectural drawings are currently showing 17.868 meter setback. So relief would be required from that as well. Finally, driveway width at parking, the second to last provision is the driveway width at property line maximum in the zoning bylaw is 9 meters for a C1 zone. The proposed driveway as shown in the architectural drawings is 11.499 meters. So they would be seeking to increase the maximum in this case. And then finally, minimum parking space aisle width is 7 meters. The architectural drawings are showing 6.7 meters. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Councilor, sorry, Mr. Belton.
Oh.
Sorry, Mr. Beljudas, you're on mute.
I'm sure notices went out to all the surrounding residences, and I'm really surprised we have not heard anything from them at all regarding this development. And the owner's comments of saying, well, he hasn't really tried to reach out. Maybe he doesn't have to if we're not receiving anything from the residents, but I'd really like to see him at least get some comments from the residents, but I guess they've had.
Your microphone is muted again, Mr. Belton.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just finishing off. That was all. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this one?
If I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councilor Culhane, you have the floor.
I'm just going to echo that previous remark. I really would like to see some interaction between the primary complainant, Ms. Pruden, and the applicant, if that's possible.
This application is in relation to the hotel on Millennium Parkway.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. Yeah, just ignore me.
I won't do that. Anyone else comments? Ms. Brown?
I'd just like to reinforce the comments Mr. Baltutis made. My observation is between the rear parking lot and the backyard is just under 4 feet. I'm not sure that if it was my backyard that I would appreciate having a car that in that close proximity. As well, I'd like to express concerns about the variance required on the height of the building. Looking at the drawings, there are windows up that are in immediate vicinity of the staircase going up through the hotel that, in my opinion, would be overlooking into the people on Cloverleaf, into their backyard. So I have concerns about that as well. If I may, an additional point, I'd like to understand why on Millennium Parkway, when the presentation itself actually refers to the benefits of being on Bell Boulevard. This particular property seems to have a lot of variances that we're trying to work around in terms of setbacks and size of parking lots and that type of thing. So I would just like to make sure that we fully understand the impact of all of those variances as we go forward from the staff report.
Okay, and staff are making notes of that. Any other questions or comments? I just have a couple actually, and my concern is with the privacy in the back of the existing residential. I appreciate the fact that the applicant has oriented the building in such a way that it moves to the front of the property. I can think of another hotel development on Bell Boulevard in which it's to the back and I would say hangs over existing residential development, which I think is problematic in the long term. I know that the north of that property, I believe, is treed to a certain extent. I'd like to see how much preservation we could have for some of the larger vegetation going along the lines of comments that were made by Ms. Brown and others in terms of cutting off visibility and providing some privacy. Also, the applicant noted that he had 2 extra parking spaces than what was required. And if we actually were to take 2 off of the east and west side of that subject property, it would drop the parking spaces further south and off of the northern boundary line, and then we could hope that some of that existing vegetation at the low level could be maintained as much as possible, understanding that there would be a privacy fence put up there. I think some maneuverability on the back of the property is imperative, in addition to, hopefully the applicant can reach out to the area residents just to make sure that their feedback is included. Those are my comments on that one. Any other comments from committee members before I call for the vote? Okay, I'm not hearing any. So I've got a mover and a seconder on that one. All in favor?
Yes.
That motion,
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried. Okay, so we'll bring Councillor Williams back into the meeting. I hesitate on calling the vote. I see Councillor Culhane and Councillor Sanderson's microphone activate a little bit, so I want to just give you an opportunity to provide input, not just move too quickly. So thank you for your patience. 6.3, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 464 Mitchell Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B-77-1106. Owner applicant is Sean Milne. The policy planners report number PP-2020-19 refers. The resolution reads that report number PP-2020-19 dated June 1st, 2020 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 464 Mitchell Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. I'm going to move her for that, please. Ms. Brown.
I'll move.
Second by Councillor Culhane. All in favor?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, is there
Yes.
any comments on? Sorry, is there any comments on that one? I'm trying to expedite the meeting now. Questions or comments on that one? Councillor Culhane, this is the application.
It's for Smith Prudent.
Yes. I don't know if you wanted to speak more on that or not.
Well, I'll just repeat my comment. I'd like to see some interaction there if it's possible.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Councillor Williams? And then I have Councillor Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to staff. I know that a while back we passed some policy on agritourism. So just wondering, as this will be a brew house and cidery, and we've got now over 20 in the region, and this is, I believe, the 3rd in Belleville after Myers Creek and Signal Brewery. Does this change what we passed before on agritourism? Does that change any status to this application? I haven't read anything yet, but just wondering if staff had any more information, if this would fit within agritourism that we passed not too long ago.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will defer some of your question, Councillor Williams, to our director, just because of my newness to this position and not being here when we did approve that policy. That being said, what staff are considering in relation to this application is more so related to the provincial guidelines for on-farm diversified uses. So the uses that aren't necessarily accessory or related to the agricultural operation, but don't detract from the agricultural operation as well. So a brewery or a distillery is listed within those permitted on-farm diversified uses, subject to there being adequate water and wastewater, which was course, discussed during the public meeting for this application. So that's more so what this application is being reviewed in accordance to. So these provincial guidelines were released to be consistent with our provincial policy statement and do include these on-farm diversified uses, which aren't necessarily using any of the agriculture operation, even though the applicant did suggest that they would be growing some of the raw materials for the production of the craft beer. However, the on-farm diversified use is just not to take away from the agriculture main operation on the property.
Councilor Williams, you good with that, sir? Oh, Director Ashton has some comments as well.
So I think there's a number of initiatives we've been doing. The official plan, which is sort of been a little bit delayed. Sorry, the initial official plan update that has been a bit delayed. I know we did introduce some policies into it. We haven't released it yet, but that is to introduce on-farm diversified uses. And I believe that there's a new, there was a staff report on the zoning bylaw as well. So I'm sort of thinking like updating the official plan as well as looking at how to introduce it through the zoning bylaw that makes sense as well. We'd have to look at other tools in the future, such as the site plan control as well. So it's a huge, it is a bit of a large initiative. This came along as a bit of a, as he's testing the waters. So I think it's a perfect example. But I think we want to look at on-farm diversified uses in terms of the rural areas, and we want to look at it sort of in a larger lens, because not just necessarily breweries, it's also other on-farm diversified uses as well that could be permitted in the future to strengthen the rural economy.
Okay, thank you. And just if we could add that to the final to have some staff comment on the agritourism side of this and just that use of the land and what that means for that area. I think just based on what we passed not too long ago, that'd be great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Sorry, Ms. Brown, yes.
If I may, during the public meeting, there was a reference to correspondence from a second individual, and I'm sorry, I was having difficulty with the name and someone.
Annette Cruden. Oh, was there a second as well?
So the only the only correspondence I appear to have received related to this application was from an individual, Stuart Thrower.
Okay, just a second. That name sounds familiar, but we want to make sure it's verified with the right application.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, you're correct. That is the additional property owner that we've received objections from. We received them on May 31st, 2020. I believe his name was Mr. Thrower, and he provided reasons for objection to the application with reference to violation of protecting agricultural land, a lack of development controls, and a statement that residents, he did provide a general statement of residents of the surrounding area moving to this area to get away from the more crowded environment of the city.
Are you good with that, Ms. Brown?
So I'm sorry, was there a second submission?
Yeah. There's two. There's the individual you spoke of, and in addition to that, Annette Cruden also has provided submissions to staff with respect to objections to the application.
So with my apologies, but I don't appear to have that correspondence. And I did verify, I went back and checked my email, so just to make sure I hadn't just missed it.
Yeah, so Mr. Ashton will add, we did have her registered to speak, but she ran into some technical difficulties, but there is a written submission, Mr. Ashton.
So just in terms of the written submissions that we get before tonight and then even after tonight up to the point of time when we write the report, those will all be provided in the attachments for the report that comes back. So you will there will still be transparency in those opinions, and we'll also analyze those and determine what we have to do, how to address them as well. So those will all still be coming forward to the committee in a report.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Brown.
So I'd also like to ensure in the staff report that we address the traffic implications. Mitchell Road in and of itself is primarily agriculture and residential. And the two roads leading into it, it being Old Highway 2, Dundas, and Airport Parkway, don't have direct interaction with other arterial roads. So I'm just concerned that we are turning what was until now largely a residential road or to some degree a thoroughfare from Airport Parkway to Dundas. And do we anticipate that if the brewery was successful, and I love the idea because it's close to home, but if it was successful in its application, do we believe that there will be any implications to the traffic flow on Airport Road and Dundas?
Okay, staff will make note of that. Any questions or any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Councillor Culhane.
If I may, is it possible just to have, pardon me, Ms. Pruden's letter of objection just sent as an email when it's convenient? I'd just like to see what her issues are before the next meeting.
Yeah, staff indicated that that would be included in the next planning, but we'll staff will get that sent out.
That'd be great. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Councillor Sanderson, go ahead.
Thank you. So just back to my thought around the source water. The gentleman that I think his name was John mentioned that at one time there was enough water there to look after 300 head of cattle. But he also mentioned that it was 15 years ago that he bought the place, and shortly thereafter they stopped cattle. I don't know that I would necessarily describe that area up and down Mitchell as residential, but I do recall we had an application come forward to put together some houses on there on the west side, and well water in the amount of throughput was a major concern, such that I think one of the residents up and down that road actually brings water in portably. And so I really think we need to take a good look at the source water for that operation. And so I just wanted to reiterate that point. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And yes, I also had some inquiries and some concerns about the amount of draw that the water in the area would cause in terms of any impacts on existing wells. So I obviously share that same concern. Staff will look at that. Any other questions or comments? If not, all in favor? The motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving on to 6.4, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10-245 is amended. 144 Avondale Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B-77-1107. Owner applicant is Matt Giesbrecht. Agent is Caitlin Sheehan, Ainley Group, and policy planners report number PP-2020-20 refers. And the resolution reads that report number PP-2020-20 dated June 1st, 2020 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10-245 is amended. 144 Avondale Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department, and following the Committee of Adjustment decision regarding consent applications B11-20 and B12-20. Mover for that. I need somebody to move that. Mr. Jennings, Councillor Williams. Any questions or comments on this motion? Okay, not hearing any. All in favor?
Yes.
And Councillor Culhane, you're good with the motion?
Yes.
Okay, motion's carried. 6.5, Mr. Jennings has declared interest, and he'll be removed and put in the waiting room. And he's in the waiting room now. So 6.5, notice of complete application, introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to Royalist secondary plan as amended, and zoning bylaw number 2076-80 as amended, Wallbridge Loyalist Road, Part Lot 31, Concession 1, Part 1, Registered Plan 21R-19789, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file numbers B-77-1108. Owner is Quinny Business Development Center Incorporated. Applicant agent is Spencer Hutchison, RFA Planning and Consultant Incorporated. Policy Planners Report number PP-2020-25 refers. The resolution reads that report number PP-2020-25 dated June 1st, 2020, regarding the notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendments to the Loyalist secondary plan as amended and zoning bylaw number 2076-80 as amended, Wallbridge Loyalist Road, Part Lot 31, Concession 1, Part 1, Registered Plan 21R-19789, City of Belleville, County of Hastings be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. Get somebody to move that motion. Mr. Joyce, seconded by Mr. Beltius. Any questions or comments on this application? Councillor Kelly. No? Okay. You keep saying yes and then you say no. All right. Any other any questions? If not, all in favor? That motion's
Yes.
carried. All right, we'll bring Mr. Jennings back into the meeting. And Mr. Jennings has rejoined us. 6.6, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended to 247 Harmony Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings. File numbers B-77-1109. Owner applicant is Marlene McKenzie. Agent is Keith Watson of Watson Land Surveyors Limited. Principal Planners Report number PP-2020-26 refers, and the resolution is that report number PP-2020-26 dated June 1st, 2020 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 247 Harmony Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. Somebody to move that, please. Mr. Jennings and Ms. Brown, any questions or comments on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you. And 6.7, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 406 Maitland Drive, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B-77-1110. Owner is Andy Gertzma. Applicant is GCC Developments Limited. Principal Planners Report number PP-2020-27 refers, and the resolution reads that report number PP-2020-27 dated June 1st, 2020 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended 406 Maitland Drive, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. I'm going to move her for that, please. Ms. Brown, seconded by Councillor Williams. Any questions or comments on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Number 7, reports. We have none. Information matters 8.1 official plan and zoning bylaw amendment monitoring report, and it's the report to June 1st, 2020. I need a motion to receive that. Mr. Bell, seconded by Councillor Culhane. Any questions or comments on that information item?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, absolutely, Councillor Culhane.
Just to say to the staff how much I appreciate the summary. It's very helpful.
Okay, thank you. That is noted. Any other questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Any general business and inquiries? Okay, hearing none, I just got some closing remarks. The Planning Advisory Committee's applicable decisions will be forwarded to City Council for consideration, forming part of the agenda for the City Council meeting to be held at a future date. And I just want to thank everyone for their patience. This was a marathon meeting, and staff and members, and certainly members of the public. With that, I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Williams and Mr. Baltutis, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Have a good evening, everyone.
You run a good meeting, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, well done, Paul.